Lauren Quigley here with a new beading tutorial using the new Cylin beads from John Bead. When working on a loom, it's very important to have consistency in the size and shape of your beads, and that's exactly what the new Cylin beads offer. They are perfect for weaving or working on a loom. In this tutorial, I'll be using 5 different colors of the Cylin beads, white good thread, a size 11 bead needle, and gold slide closures for the ends of our bracelet. If you've never worked with a bead loom before, I'm going to show you how to set it up, and it is so easy. Please don't be intimidated by this process. First, you're going to start off with your good thread, and you're going to attach the thread by tying it off a few times to one of the sides of the loom. Then take your thread and go through the little teeth through the other side of the loom to the teeth on the other side and wrap it around the screw there and go back. Make sure you're pulling your string nice and tight and that you're putting the string in between the teeth right next to where you started. So you'll keep going around back and forth like this until you're finished. I'll have 6 beads to a row on my bracelet, so I'll need 7 of these strings on the loom. Make sure you tie it off on the other side and then you can cut that string. Your string needs to be nice and tight, so if you need to adjust the loom, you just unscrew that nut and bolt there and then turn it so that you're tightening those strings and then just tighten that nut and bolt again. Now we're going to need our working strand of string. I like to use a really nice long piece of good thread for this, and if you need to add more later, that's fine. We'll go back and do that. I've made my bead pattern on some grid paper, and I'm starting off with 6 of the red Cylin beads. We'll take our loaded needle to the bottom left and go underneath of those 7 strings that we have. You're going to push up with your finger and make sure that you get 1 bead into each section. Your finger should be applying some pressure from below, and then you will pull that string. Make sure not to pull it all the way through. You're going to leave a nice long tail there. Then bring your needle back over top of those 7 strings so that the beads stay there on their own. Now we're going to go to the next row up, which is 1 blue bead followed by 5 of our red beads. Once you have that loaded, go underneath of your 7 strings, push up with your finger, applying that pressure, and then you'll take your needle and go over top of those 7 strings. Make sure that you are pushing those beads up nice and high so that you actually go over top of all 7 of those strands. The first 2 to 3 rows are a little loose, and that's because we don't want to pull through that long tail that we had left on the end. We will go back and string that through at the very end of our bracelet, but as we continue the rows, it's going to be nice and tight and you won't have to worry about it. So now we do our 3rd row, repeating that same process. We'll load our needle and then we'll go from the bottom left, pushing up those beads in between those 7 strands. I like to keep my thumbnail nice and long so that I can push those strings down in between each one of those little beads. And then we'll pull through and then go over top of all 7 of those strands. This is going to be the process that we repeat over and over again until our entire bracelet is done. It's key that you get this technique down and that you are following your pattern. Also, it's important to make sure that when you're pulling your needle back through, you're going over top of all 7 strands, because if you don't, and let's say that you miss one, you're going to be able to see it when your bracelet is all finished. With a little bit of movie magic, I'm going to fast forward and show you each row that I do, and we're just going to repeat this simple process over and over again until our bracelet is completely finished. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about how I made my pattern. You don't need any fancy apps or anything like that. Just get yourself some grid paper and some markers or crayons, colored pencils, whatever you have on hand. Since I'll be using these cute gold sliders at the end of my bracelet, I went ahead and I counted out how many beads I would need in a row to fill up that entire spacer. So it would be the same length. Well, it was 6 beads. So on my grid paper, I counted out 6 beads and decided that I wanted to do a triangular pattern. I used markers that were similar colors to the beads that I had to draw out the pattern, and I didn't fully finish my pattern because I wasn't sure how long I was going to make this bracelet at first. I figured I could always go back and add to my pattern once I'm completely finished. Now we need to add some more string because I was almost out of string. We wanted to make sure that we leave a nice long tail on there so that we can run our string back through at the very end. So to start some more string, all you do is cut a nice long piece of string, load your beads onto your needle, and start your rows the same way that you would, but you're going to make sure that you leave a nice long tail. So there should be 2 tails in that area now, and we'll just keep beading back up these rows until the bracelet is completely finished. And then we'll go back and take those 2 tails and run them back through the bracelet. These Cylin beads are working so wonderfully on the loom because they are the perfect size. They're also very consistent. Now, if you've worked with seed beads before, then you know that not all seed beads are created the same. Some can be kind of wonky and odd shaped, and you don't really want that when you're working on a loom. You need it to be consistent. Here, I have reached my desired length of the top of my bracelet. So what we're going to do is we are going to take those tails that we have 4 total, and we're going to run those back through the bracelet. You don't need to pull too tightly here, just, keep the same amount of pressure that you've been using this whole time. You don't want the ends to curl up on you or anything. Believe me, that has happened to me in the past. For the 2 tails that are in the middle, if we were weaving up the loom, we're going to take the string and go back down the loom. If you were going down the loom, we're going to bring it up the loom, if that makes sense, so that these 2 pieces will be connected. So you just take your needle and run those back and forth through there, and with some movie magic, this is going to be fast forwarded so that you don't need to watch me do this in real time, because one of the things about beading is that it's beautiful, but it takes a lot of time. Now that we've run our tails back through the beads, we can remove our project from the loom. Start by loosening up one of the sides of the loom, and you'll be able to pull the strings off of the side, and you can cut it off very close to the screw. You want to leave as long of the tails as you can because we are going to tie all of those together. And so you have to have enough string in order to make those little knots. If you don't tie them off, then your beads could come off of the string very easily. You would just be able to pull it apart. We'll be using these gold slide clasps, and these are very easy to use. One side opens, and then you slide it over top of the first row of beads, and then you use your pliers and close it up. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we are tying off all of our strings. Grab 2 strands at a time and do 3 knots on each one. We do have 7 strands here, so there's 1 at the end. Just take that and tie it 3 knots to the one next to it. We want to make sure that all of our beads are nice and secure. So you'll just repeat this on the other side. Then we can grab our pliers and add our little slide closures. First, you're going to trim off those little tails that we have there, and then slide on our closure over top of that top row, and then close it up. If you want to add a little extra protection, you can put a little bit of beading glue inside of there before you close it up, but I felt like these were pretty secure because I tied nice tight knots. Now we're going to use a John bead finding kit. We'll need a chain, 2 jump rings, and a lobster clasp. Open up 1 jump ring with your pliers and then add your lobster clasp and then put it on one side of your bracelet. And then you'll repeat the same thing on the other side, just using the jump ring and the chain. I like this because it makes it adjustable and the beading doesn't go around the whole entire wrist. You have like that nice adjustable area at the bottom of your wrist, so this will fit all size wrists. You can also adjust your pattern if you want more beads, just add more rows to your bracelet. Look how adorable this bracelet came out. I love it so much. I love a good bracelet stack, and any type of colorful bead really makes me so happy. This Create bracelet is actually another bracelet that I made for John Bead that I love as well. Let me know what you think about this tutorial, or if you have any questions down in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe, and definitely check out the new Cylin beads from John Bead. Happy crafting!